Alright, well, it's been a while, and here I am making another video. Most of my videos are based on intuition. This video is no different. We all like to think we have some insight into the world through our intuition. It's probably not as prescient as we'd like to believe, but here's what I feel. I already made another video like this, but I think I'm just going to slightly tweak it. I made a video called Don't Beat Yourself Up About Missed Opportunities. This is basically about what I believe to be, I guess, the benefits of not narcissism, the benefits of nihilism. Nihilism. I was watching videos about nihilism earlier, and they're saying, oh, well, the optimistic thing is that with nihilism, you can make life about whatever you want it to be. You can give life whatever purpose you want. Now, I've already talked about how I don't like that idea, but I think this is kind of a short-sighted idea that nihilism means that the optimistic part of nihilism is that that you have the option to give life whatever meaning you want. That still sort of implies that you have to give life meaning. But in this video, I'm going to postulate, if I'm going to use a word to try to make myself sound smart, that the best thing about nihilism is that there's no obligation for you to have any meaning whatsoever in your life. There's no obligation to have any meaning in your life. Now, I think some people would make the argument, well, you only have so much time in life, so you got to make the most of it. I think that's really, that's like you only live once, And so a lot of arguments are made based on the best. So you live on the idea of, are you living your best life? Don't waste your time, this and that. But I think that kind of attitude, maybe it's right. It could be right, but I get the feeling like it's probably not particularly right. And why is that? Well, if life has no inherent meaning, if there's no great overarching meaning, then, as I said in other videos, as far as I'm concerned, the only real logical conclusion to make is that, well, then life is for pleasure seeking. Life is about being hedonistic. If all you really have is your own experience of life, then why not make your life, as enjoyable as possible, I guess. You know, the other side of that theory would be, well, no, you're meant to live your life. The real true measure of what life well lived is how much you help other people. But the only reason why we help other people in society today, or generally, I think why life forms have evolved in a way to help each other, is because by helping other people, you help yourself. I think a lot of this is still, I don't really know that this is 100% true, but I feel like it's a biological strategy. The reason why we do anything as life forms is because somehow usually it ends up you know increasing our chances of survival. That's what evolution's about. If you're like me, you believe in evolution, and that's the reason why we help people. If helping people was the real meaning of life, then don't you think you would get a great feeling out of helping other people? Maybe some people do, and good for those people. Maybe they're more enlightened people than I am. They get some great joy out of helping other people. I've helped other people, and did it with the idea that maybe, I don't know. I think whenever I did it, I thought it was whenever I help other people selflessly. In my mind, some part of my mind thinks, oh, well, someday I'm going to be paid back for this, in the grand scheme of things, you know. Somehow karma's going to get me back, the universe is going to get me back. But, I don't know. I'm not particularly happy with my life. It's not like a bad life. It's okay. It's decent. You know, I've had it a lot better than some. I've had it worse than others. But the extent to which it's good or bad has very little to do with how much I've helped other people or any amount of joy I've gotten from helping other people. I once, bought a homeless guy some milk. He really wanted milk. I bought him milk. Has it made my life materially better or worse? Oh, I spent money on it. I barely missed the money. Did it feel good to get the guy milk? Maybe a little. Certainly, you get more joy out of other. I'd rather eat a delicious burger or something than. I got more joy out of eating a selfish act of buying a burger and enjoying it myself than I did out of buying that guy a thing of milk. Um, I picked up trash around here once. I went around walking around this local. There's like a triangle here. It's kind of like a big rural triangle that I walked, and one day I decided to pick up trash. It looks better. I'm glad I. It's not like it was it wasn't a pleasant experience. I think I was wearing this jacket. It might have got dirty. I had to wash it, and it was icky. And really, all it did was make me feel, dismayed that humanity gave so little of a crap about how they disposed of their, garbage. It reminded me that, like, hunters that like to chew tobacco or smoke cigarettes are ignorant pricks who, throw their cigarettes into plastic bottles and toss them into the woods because they just don't give a crap. Does that make me feel better? I was the guy cleaning that up. Did it make me feel any better to clean up after these assholes who don't give a shit? No. It just made me feel worse about humanity. I feel like people are dicks. I did it. Maybe I thought it was helping. I don't know. It didn't make a huge difference in the end. So all I'm saying is that selfless acts of giving, maybe for somebody, other people who are better than me, they feel good, and they say doing good is its own reward. Well, for me, doing good isn't enough of a reward to be worthwhile to do the good. I'm sorry. I wish I was. This is one of the reasons why I say I'm not. Some people say I'm a nice guy. I mean, I generally try to be empathetic and try to understand other people's perspectives. But I don't get joy from making personal sacrifice for the betterment of the world. I just don't. I think if I was a really good person, I would maybe gain joy from doing those types of things. But I really wonder how many people actually feel real joy, from making a personal sacrifice to help the world. I don't think it's a large percentage of people. I'd say it's a vanishingly small percentage of people. But so let's put aside that. I just wanted to delve into that idea, the idea that there's an idea that maybe life is about serving others. Well, if life is about serving others, then you don't get any good feelings from it. And as life is about your experience, and you only have one experience, why waste time doing something that doesn't bring you joy? I mean, a lot of people wouldn't see it as a waste of time, but in terms of your personal experience, you only have so long on this planet, or in this life, whatever you want to say. And if you're not getting joy from doing something, why keep doing it? So, all right, let's rule out, because at least for me personally, maybe it's different for you, but for me personally, since selfless acts don't bring me joy, let's talk about what does bring joy. Well, generally hedonism brings joy, as I mentioned. Really delicious food, sexual gratification, being respected, laughing. Um, I don't even know. It's like funny thing is like, I suppose doing something well, gives you joy, feeling like you're good at things. Really, it's kind of like, in the end, feeling like you're better than other people. It's like really when you feel like that's one of the things I think that brings most people joy. It's a selfish thing, but it's kind of like, when you feel like, oh yeah, I'm better than other people for one reason or the other. We're all looking to be better than everyone else. It's really kind of narcissistic and self-centered, to try to be better than other people. But feeling like you stand out, feeling like you're better than other people, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel special. You want to feel special. So that's another way. Either you feel special or you're chasing hedonism, right? Now, these are not noble pursuits. It's not noble to feel better than other people. We like it. It feels good, but doesn't make you a good person. But some people might say, well, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, since doing good is not doesn't offer any reward in this reality, then why should it matter? It's all about just you know feeling good any way you can. So there's like, as far as I can tell, there's like two routes to hedonism. One is you know satiating the senses in some way, in a pleasant way, usually through food or sex, of one of those two, a combination of those two things, or feeling superior to other people. And I think this is where I'm really going to delve into it. So when these are the hedonistic things, right? Okay, fine, you know, but then you think, well, you can have too much of a good thing, right? I really like. There's a burger place near here. I love the burger. It's delicious. Um, I like going there. It's a tasty burger. But you wouldn't want to eat that burger every day. You get tired if you had that same burger every day. It gets old. You got to have variety. Let's say you were to eat something really delicious every day. You know, well, that would be good you know if you had a really fast metabolism, but most people can't afford to get away with eating something as delicious as a burger every day. All right, so there's drawbacks to this hedonism. Um, you know, or when it comes to having sex, for example. I mean, I don't know much about that, but I can tell you, in terms of like you know, self, you know, self gratification. You know, that gets old too. You might be able to, you might be able to do it, two, maybe when you're younger, three times a day, maybe. But it's like it loses its appeal really after the first or second time. You're really kind of going overboard if you're doing it more than once or twice a day, as far as I'm concerned. So again, it's like, okay, hedonism is fine, but in moderation. It, so I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, you know, I was watching the Oscars. You got all these people up there. At first, some part of me is saying, oh, look at these people. They've reached their dreams. They've got this award. Everyone loves them. They're having a great night. They're the belle of the ball for the evening, that whole thing. But how much does it really mean? How much does it really mean? Because so many times in life, you search after these hedonistic things, and you get there, and it's just not what you expect it to be, or it doesn't have the staying power, or the nature of human greed is that it's never enough. The nature of samsara, as the Buddhists put it, as I've mentioned many times before on this channel, is you always want more. You're never really satiated. So, like I say, you can eat that burger, but you still want something else like that burger. You want that same joy again. But you can overdo it, and it's like a law of diminishing returns. You get what you want, and it's like suddenly you get what you want too much, and you can have too much of a good thing. And this is probably true. Like these people on the Oscars, they may have this award. Does that award mean that they're as great as the award says? Yeah, well, a certain group of people think that these people did a good job. And because of the prestige associated with the award, these people get to feel like they're really great. But, just because they won an Oscar, does that mean it objectively that performance or that thing that they did was really that great? Not necessarily. Nobody really knows how much joy people get. I got as much joy from the original Austin Powers when I first saw it, when it was still new, not the sequels, which at that point they were rehashed, but when it was still a new idea, I found that movie to be hilarious. Now, at this point, it's not that funny to me anymore. I know all the jokes. It's ruined now. But Austin Powers didn't win an Academy Award. It was one of the funniest movies I ever saw. I remember the first time I saw it, I was in stitches. I was laughing I was like, falling over on my side in the theater. Um, it never won anything. It's like, I mean, he made a bunch of money from it, and that's fine. All I'm saying is that just because the Academy didn't give it an award, who's to say a comedy isn't worth just as much as a drama? Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies. I don't think that won Best Picture. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. A lot of people agree with me on that one. Shawshank Redemption, whatever. Shawshank Redemption almost did win an award, but all I'm saying is that, the feeling is probably fleeting. You might feel like you're on top of the world for the day, but then what happens the next day and the next day, It goes away. You end up having to move on to something else. Life goes on. You never reach the pinnacle and that's it. Everything's there. The nature of life is that um, until you die, you don't really have any kind of permanent satisfaction. And so I think in some ways, that can be frustrating. But in some ways, it's also liberating to those of us who feel like, things didn't work out for us in one way or another. I'm never going to win any awards. I'm probably not going to write a song that people love. I'm not going to be a great chef or not going to have a fulfilling career. But what difference does it make? I could reach the top of my field and there still wouldn't be any satisfaction there. People have great romances and they still have hard times and good times and bad times. Nothing's ever finished, really. Good relationships require work. They require ups and downs. Is it better that you had the ups and downs? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Everything's a trade-off. Would I be happier if I had a great career? Maybe on some level, but on some level, I would spend less time with my family. Or on some level, I'd have less free time. Everything's a trade-off. Would I be happier in a successful relationship? Some of the time I would be. Some of the time I wouldn't. Would I be happier with kids? It'd be nice to have the companionship. It'd be nice to feel like a mentor, but at the same time, I've got to worry about raising them in a world that may well be doomed to catastrophic climate change and other things like that. For those of you who care to believe in science. Anyway, all I'm saying is that, I'll also say that a lot of what we end up doing in our life is not dictated by our own choices. Some of it is. Some of it's your own choices. But I think an awful lot of it has to do with the background in which you were brought up. Your scenario, the scenario that you're placed in the universe, I think, has a profound effect on how you operate in the long run. Your genes and your experiences are often dictated by chance and not so much by any kind of any choices on your part, or a lot of your choices are dictated by your scenario. I struggled in school. I struggled mostly because I had a bodily defect and because I didn't have a strong father figure. I love my father. I forgive him for not being a great. He was a good dad in some ways. In other ways, he was a complete failure as a father. He didn't teach me to stand up for myself. He didn't take an active interest in my life. He didn't push me to achieve my goals. He didn't teach me how to, he was very sensitive to criticism himself. So he never really had the ability to dispel criticism in a clever way. That's something that some kids, kids that are good at that in school, they can they can take a put down and they can turn it around, and they can they know a pretty good put down themselves. They're able to defend themselves verbally. I was never given that because my dad was too sensitive to criticism. If he hadn't been so sensitive to criticism, maybe he could have taught me how to engage in that kind of cutting, cutting each other down. This is a long tradition of this. I just so happened it didn't happen in my family, and learning it is not easy if you haven't grown up with it. You're never going to be as good as somebody who, I used to work with this girl who was, our relationship was initially antagonistic, and I thought I used to like to try to poke fun. And she was just better at it than I was. She was better at cutting me down than I was at cutting her down. And it didn't take me long to realize that I was in over my head. She was a skilled bully. I couldn't be a bully back on the level that she was a bully. I wasn't willing to cut as deep, and I wasn't as snappy with my comebacks. She had an edge on me that I could never overcome. And I don't think that's something that really can be learned easily. I just think that's something that you grow up with. And she has her own depression, she has her own issues, but so it's just one thing. But all I'm saying is that a big part of why I struggled in life was because of the scenario that I was put into. Between having a father that didn't care about my personal development, didn't teach me how to stand up for myself. I moved from Massachusetts to Southern California. I was a fish out of water. I didn't belong. I was a country bumpkin. It was hard for me to acclimate and adjust to that kind of environment. Didn't have as many friends, so I didn't have a resilient social support network to help me when I was struggling. Grew up in a place that was very vapid and obsessed with image. Not good for somebody who, came from really a much more intelligent place. Massachusetts is a much more intelligent place than California. People in California aren't so smart. People out here are actually pretty smart. If I'd stayed out here, things could have worked out well, but it wasn't my choice. I would have related better to people out here. I didn't relate to California. It wasn't where I was meant to be, or well, it was where I was meant to be, but it didn't fit my strengths. And maybe my life could have been different. Maybe I could have had a career. Maybe, I think in the end, I always wanted my life to be about having a good time. I didn't really care about making money. I just wanted to enjoy myself. It's one of the reasons why I was never interested in and I'm still not interested in seeing through getting a computer degree. Because when you do that 40 hours a week or more, depending on how much you have to work, that's a long time to be doing something that you're not interested in. Some people really seem to be interested in things that make money, but it's not a very large percentage of the population. Most of us don't enjoy what we have to do to make money. We put up with it. There's an awful lot of people pretending. That's one thing you see. There's a lot of people that like to pretend that they have it all figured out. But my guess is, based on what I said about hedonism and the fact that, humans are never satisfied, there's an awful lot of people pretending to be satisfied with their lives. But the reality is most people are probably have one major gripe or another. And they might tell you, well, if you really ask them, they might be like, yeah, I'm pretty good. But how many people are really loving their life every day, waking up excited every day to be alive? I think it's a very, very small percentage of people again. So I can feel bad that I don't have a career. I don't have a romantic relationship. That I don't wake up every day and feel excited and motivated to do anything. But for all those people that have those things, they have other things to worry about, That doesn't mean that their life is perfect. There's still want, there's still need, there's still unmet needs, there's still dissatisfaction with their lives, And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, in the end, no matter what your problems are, they don't really matter. Everybody has problems. You shouldn't You shouldn't feel like you're wasting your life because, oh, I suppose, what's the point in reaching your potential anyway? If when you reach your potential you're still not fulfilled, then why try so hard to do it? Why put so much effort into something that doesn't bring fulfillment in the end? I don't know. People will say that they're fulfilled. I'm not sure I believe it. I think most people are not fulfilled most of the time because that's just the nature of living in reality. Maybe other people are more fulfilled than I am, but how much extra effort did they put in to get more fulfilled and not totally fulfilled, you know? I suppose my big concern is really more for wanting to avoid a place of desperation. But I sometimes wonder if, my place of desperation is really that much worse than me having a career that I hated, or having a job that I hated. Given that a fact that I don't enjoy doing anything to make money. Well, me being desperate to earn, a paltry if I have to, if one of my parents die, I have to scrounge to barely make ends meet. Is that going to be that much worse than if I'd become a computer programmer that hated my job and was still working 40 hours a week but was slightly more comfortable? I don't know. I guess I'll find out. But right now, I'm not paying for it yet. Maybe I will eventually. All I'm saying is, in the long run, what difference does it make? Meet your potential, don't meet your potential. It doesn't make a huge difference in the world whether you meet your potential or not. Everyone's going to die. The earth will cease to be at some point. Climate change will probably wipe out humanity. That's my guess. At some point in the next 100 years. If it doesn't totally wipe out humanity, it's going to get awful close. Eventually, you'll be forgotten. People will go on with their lives. And maybe you could have lived a better life, but by a factor of what exactly, Would your life be twice as good if you achieved your goals? Who knows? Is that even, what's the multiplier? How can you quantify the amount that your life would be better? And does it really make any difference when life is so short? I think about good experiences I've had. I've enjoyed some great burgers. Do I remember specific days where I was like, oh yeah, I had this burger and it was amazing and that was perfect? Well, I had some days that were good, but it's like, is it life changing? No. It's a nice thing. You had a good day. I guess, it's good to, it's good to have good experiences, but none of these things I look back and think, oh yeah, that burger, that was the day that my life really was, came together. It's like, I don't know, these are fleeting experiences. The pleasure, the pain, and it's all fleeting. It all goes. So I guess I'm just saying that people put such high stakes on making use of your time and, living your best life and fulfilling your potential, reaching your goals, all this kind of stuff. I don't think it makes that big of a difference in the end. Your life is marginally better if you do those things, probably. But does it really make a huge difference in the long run? If there's some kind of overarching goal here that, if there is an afterlife, yeah, then I suppose it doesn't hurt to do things. But even then, if there is some afterlife, that means that we live in eternity, and basically you have an awful lot of chances to get things right. So it doesn't really matter at what speed you get the stuff done. If you have to come back to this, if reincarnation is the punishment, as some believe, for not getting your life right, does it matter that you have to live 50 lifetimes or 100 lifetimes or 200 lifetimes? Is it a competition? What's wrong with living an extra 50 lifetimes? What's wrong with experiencing more pain and joy? It's like, isn't that what we're here for? To experience life? Why not try 50 lives? Maybe the people that, reach enlightenment sooner are missing out on an opportunity to try 50 different more lives. What's the point of living at all if you're not trying out different lives? And if all life is suffering, then what was the point of doing it in the first place? And if life doesn't mean anything, and this is it, this is the only shot you got, well, maybe your life could have been a little bit better, but does it really make that much difference? And should you really be beating yourself up about the fact that your life wasn't perfect? Your life could always be better. Your life could always be worse. You can be happy for what it is without beating yourself over the head for thinking, "Oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I'm terrible." Because you're under no obligation to live your life. I personally think, either either this is the only shot you get, in which case, could you have lived a better life? Maybe. Would it, but I don't think the difference between living your best life and living a pretty good life is all that great. I don't. I don't think it's like a life and death thing. I don't think it's made out to be the magnitude of difference that people like to think it is. We like to exaggerate the meaning in our lives. We like to exaggerate the meaning of our goals and, exaggerate our joys and our sorrows, but our lives are so infinitesimally, they're infinitesimally small. They don't really, it doesn't really matter that much, I don't think. I mean, if it's the only experience I guess it matters to some extent, but like I said, I don't think the difference is that great between a life lived to its maximum potential versus a life lived to a comfortable level. And there's probably less stress involved with the one that's more comfortable as opposed to the one where you're striving, goals, goals, goals. I just think in the end, we should relax. And I think that one thing I will say is that I guess one thing I'm coming to realize is that I feel like life is. I don't want to hate anybody anymore. I see I see the anger that Trump is making in people, my mother especially, and hating Trump and hating all the people involved with Trump. It doesn't really do anything for you. It just gets you worked up. For a long time, I hated these rich douchebags that control the world, and they have all these things that I don't have, and I feel jealousy and envy and anger that they make my life harder by they try to take things from the little guy as much as they can, but in the end, it doesn't really accomplish anything to hate them. Even though I said that thing about how I thought maybe shooting people was a good idea at this point. Like Luigi Mangione, I'm taking that back. I feel like life is too short to hate people. I do like the idea. I think the idea that you should love your enemies is a good one. The idea that you should forgive people for their imperfection. There's a lot of people that annoy the hell out of me for a lot of various reasons, but it feels like a waste of your time a waste of your mental capacities and of your energy to direct hated people. I'm just tired of it. So long I've been outraged. I just want to have the will to hate anymore. I've just started to accept things. I don't love Trump, but I don't hate him either. I can't hate it anymore. I don't hate Trump supporters. I hang out with family that are Trump supporters. I can't hate them for supporting Trump. I made that whole video after he got elected. I was pissed, and I was just hate. I was spewing hate. I feel like I should just pull the video. Spewing hate at immigrants and just being a very mean, nasty person. I look back and I look at myself and I think, how is that helping the world? It's really not. I don't want to be hateful anymore. So, if anything, I'd say, in life, I guess, I don't want to say make the most of it, because that makes it sound like you have some obligation, you know. Things are going to unfold how they're going to unfold. If you want to put the effort in to achieve your goals or whatever, this and that, fine, but I don't think it's the end all be all. You probably find out that when you achieve your goals, it's not all you thought it was cracked up to be anyway. I think that's what I've been trying to say this whole freaking video, and I've meandered around. And it may not make any difference in the long run, you know. It probably makes very little difference. And that, I guess, is the positive side of nihilism, is it doesn't really matter. I don't think it matters. That's what the conclusion I'm coming to. Just don't hate people and live your life however it plays out. Maybe you'll put in more effort. Maybe, you know, some people, I suppose, will be able to overcome the negative influences that were part of their lives. Like I said, you know, some people are going to be placed. I was placed with a lot of negative influences early on in my life that I've had to deal with. Maybe my life would have been better if I could have learned to overcome those, or especially if I had never had to face them in the first place. But you don't really have a lot of control over that, and you have some control over overcoming those things. But you know, the difference between overcoming them and not overcoming them, I'm not convinced it's that huge. In the end, I just think that you're destined to be somewhat unsatisfied, and so what you end up having to do is just say, well, you know, you try to enjoy the good things, and that's all you can do. You try to enjoy the good things and try not to hate people, and try not to put a lot of your energy towards feelings that don't really make your life any better. I sound like a cliche when I say this stuff, because I know this is what people say, but don't hate your enemies. Try to love your enemies. I think Christ is right about that. It doesn't do any favors to hate. Don't be angry at God for where you are. I've been angry at God for most of my life, and I think I've just come to the point where I can't be angry anymore. And I can't be frustrated with what is. I think I have to realize that it always seems better. You can always imagine a better life, but no matter how successful you are in life, you'll always be able to imagine a better life. And you know, when you look at other people who have seeming success, you know, it's probably for the most part an image. You know, it's a facade people put on. People are constantly playing this act like their lives are so great, but I think you just have to remind yourself that no matter what's going on in other people's lives, no matter how happy and fulfilled they may look from the outside, we're just destined to not be particularly thrilled with anything. We'll never be satisfied. You know, satisfaction comes and goes, and it comes and goes for everybody, no matter what you do. And don't worry about it so much. And don't put so much pressure on yourself to feel like you have to overcome your past or change your life. You know, just just live your life and don't hate other people and don't feel so bad for yourself and forgive yourself for the difficulties you've had to face in life. Forgive yourself for not rising to the challenge of those difficulties some of the time. It's not the end of the world. And don't hate people. I don't know. I have a hard time following these because some part of my brain is gnawing at me with, you know, but it's not good enough. You're not good enough. You didn't do enough. You didn't try hard enough. You could have had all the great things. I have to keep telling myself all those great things. They would have been nice, but they're fleeting. It's all fleeting. It just comes and goes. And in some ways, that should be a relief. No matter how much effort you put out, at some point there'll always be that dissatisfaction. So just live with the dissatisfaction. Don't let it consume you, and don't hate anybody. I guess that's how I'm going to end this. This is kind of all over the place, but I think I got the idea across.